Welcome back to a new mini episode, of the Authentic Man podcast. I'm your host, David Chambers. I'm a men's dating, relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm also a couples coach with my partner, Orsa. Today we're talking a little bit about what to do when sexual intimacy in your relationship stops or decreases massively, one of the two. Ultimately we need to create a plan. I'm going to just tell you about something coming up soon. I've got a relationship school, we're calling it. It's an 8-week program with my partner also. We've been running that in September and October. And one of the large parts that we're going to talk about is intimacy, sexual intimacy and emotional intimacy, how to kind of rekindle those, keep those alive. It's a program for singles and couples. If it's something you're interested in, I'll leave some details in the show notes about how you can get involved and enroll in that. And maybe you want to have a chat with me about it. You can DM me on Instagram at @theauthenticman_. But we'll get into the main topic. So I try and keep these around the 10-minute mark, give or take. So something I've worked on with quite a lot of men recently is men who are in relationships where sexual intimacy has decreased a lot, either completely stopped, decreased a lot or completely stopped. Is definitely something that I've been working on with a few men over the last 3 to 6 months. So I'm starting to see some commonalities. I'm going to give you some of those bits here as help, actually, for if this is you, it's inside your relationship. Because I think sexual intimacy, me and also actually we're just recording. We're going to be bringing out a limited series podcast of probably about 9 or 10 episodes, and we're recording those yesterday. And sexual satisfaction is linked to relationship satisfaction on average. There's some statistics around that, but a lot of people find that sexual satisfaction is important. So when we kind of stop having sex, and that is something we're not satisfied with, that's going to affect the satisfaction of our relationship and the health of our relationship. So it's something that we shouldn't just bury. We should work on and look to improve. So one of the first steps that we need to take is to look at why has it stopped. I think this is why, between the partners. This can be a myriad of reasons, from having children is actually a big reason. A fear of having sex due to maybe pain or discomfort, or not feeling attractive, insecurity on both ends, premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction can also be something, anxiety. There's a myriad of reasons, but it's important to kind of find out why. You're in a relationship with someone and find out why has it stopped, and having a really kind of non-judgmental conversation about that. And it won't necessarily mean this will be part of the first step, but this might be ongoing as you go through some of the other steps, is actually uncovering and talking about why, because uncovering and talking about why will help you in the later steps of taking action. You can't just assume that, we've stopped having sex and it's because of X, if you're not sure it's because of X, because actually you can do more damage if you're just assuming that thing and affirming that when it's not actually the case, I've seen. One of the other parts of the plan that's important is to have both partners contributing energy to improving this area of the relationship. There's some, there's a standard kind of stereotype that we get talked about in heterosexual relationships where, as time goes on, the woman's not going to want to have sex anymore. I'm here to tell you that that's not true. As I said, I've worked with many men around this, and it's not always the woman. Sometimes it's the men who go off having sex for various reasons. So one of the things that's important is to make sure that you're both committed to it. You're both committed to this area improving, and you're willing to put energy to it, because it's very difficult when one partner is just like, well, I don't want to, and I'm not willing to talk about it, and I'm not willing to go on any journey. I'm happy with this, and I don't think it's a problem. It's important that, we see that the needs of one of our partners is also something that's not necessarily our responsibility, but it's within our remit, within our relationship. Therapy might be something that's worthwhile doing at this point. If one partner wants to have more sexual intimacy, and the other partner doesn't want to at all, it's worth going to therapy and talking about it as well, and speaking to a coach, one of you, both of you, because there's this idea that as relationships go on that people stop having sex. That's not necessarily true. It doesn't have to be that way. I've spoken to couples that have been together for 20 years, 30 years, and they're very regularly having sex. I met a woman who was in her mid-50s or 60s, and her and her partner realized that they hadn't been having sex, and they did something about it. So it doesn't just have to kind of be this way, that the way that relationships go. It's a kind of untrue thing that's said by people who get lazy in this area, because that's what happens a lot of the time. We get lazy in the area of intimacy, sexual intimacy especially. So it's important that we're both putting energy towards this. And it's also important that if it's not happening, right, between a couple, that it's not just seen as that one partner needs to do all the work, the other person's just waiting for the other person to reach them. Again, you're a team, you're a couple, you're in a relationship, and inside the area of intimacy, you're also a team, and if you think of any sports, a team sport, you're helping each other do, for success, and helping each other isn't one person standing going, well, you need to do all the work and I'm waiting for you until you get better. It's no, you help that partner get better, and you're there to support them and be there for them as they do the work to improve in an area, or, you come down and you aid them as well. So it's important to focus on that. One of the other areas that I've seen is really important is emotional intimacy, experiential intimacy as well, is looking at other types of intimacy in your relationship, full stop. And I'm going to talk about emotional intimacy. I've got a number of episodes about opening up emotions and so forth on the podcast. You can easily Google emotions and the Authentic Man podcast. There's a lot of those. Or there's a mini episode about how men can open up to their emotions more. This is something that I'm seeing in my 8-week program. Once men start opening up and being able to communicate their emotions and be more present, they get more sex in their relationships. Simple as that, right? It might not happen overnight, but it will take a little bit of time depending how in a rut you might be, but it becomes quite a simple equation most of the time, right? I say most of the time. I've seen it in a lot of men I've worked with as well, and even men who are dating actually. So emotional intimacy is looking at your experiential intimacy, like how often are you doing things together, like having experiences and having fun together that create new memories. Something also used to say to me a lot is creating new memories, but actually this is an important thing. Having fun, enjoying yourselves together. Maybe that's going out and doing stuff. Maybe that is doing hobbies together or pursuits. And that doesn't include just sitting and watching TV all the time. This is something that we get into as couples. We just sit at home watching TV and sitting on our phones while watching TV, and there's no intimacy when we're just sitting on our phones all the time. We're disconnected from each other. So these things around creating more closeness and connection with each other is very, very important, right? And again, like I said, there's other episodes where I go into detail about how to do that as well. And another thing is to put a time aside for intimacy. This can be scheduled time, right? Schedule. You might put it in on a Friday night between 8 and 10 p.m. that you're going to, maybe go into the bedroom and have intimate time together. That's part of the plan. It's part of planning, is creating time, because one of the big reasons why we say we don't have intimacy is we don't have time. So like other important things in your life, schedule time for it. Make time for it in your life. And again, both partners have to be willing to make time. And it doesn't have to be hours and hours, Some of my clients start off with like 15, 20 minutes. And maybe they might do it in the mornings and, a time that works for both partners. But scheduling time, because you're making this area of your relationship important. So schedule it in, put time aside. This next one might seem odd to you, right? But it's worth putting it in this way. The next part is also to increase or decrease the amount of physical intimacy in your relationship. Now, this might sound interesting. I'm going to explain this a little bit. So in Esther Perel's book, Mating in Captivity, she recommends a couple who are very close and very touchy-feely, who They're very, lots of hugging and holding hands and stuff like that. They're very close, very friendly, but they've lost the spark of sexual attraction between them. So she recommends for that couple, for them actually to stop touching, stop kissing. And I think he even tells them to sleep in separate beds for a while, to create a level of what is often called polarity, of otherness, I call it almost missing the other person's skin and touch. This can often generate more kind of desire between two people, right? That's something that sometimes is useful, but only in the circumstances where you think you're very, very close and touchy-feely in that way. And in this instance, I'd also recommend spending time apart. If you're spending all your time with a partner all the time, right, and the sexual intimacy has died, then start to spend time apart, start to spend time separately with friends, maybe even when you're in the home, sit in your own for a couple of hours in a room alone, or leave the home and go to the park alone. Spend less time together to help generate that kind of polarity. But, and this is a big but, if you're in a relationship where there is not that much physical touch and contact, you want to start increasing the level of hugging and kissing and little touches that happen throughout the day. You want to have multiple physical contact points, conscious contact points, not just like, touching as you move past each other, but hugging and staying in the hug for a few seconds, whether that's in the morning, whether that's before bed, and so forth. And, even, like I said, the emotional intimacy is important as well. But the Gottmans have done some research about this, and it's very important to have that level. Couples that have active sex lives are often quite physically connected. And I know these two things I've just said there are kind of polar opposites, but it's definitely something that I've seen that works, right? As a thing to do. And one of the last points here I've got is start small. If you're coming from a place where there's zero sexual intimacy, or it's very infrequent, like once a year or so, as I know, I think a marriage is classed as sexless if there's less than, I can't remember the exact number. I feel like it's less than 10 times a year, but it might be less than that, as a note. But start small, right? Start with maybe planning sessions for kissing, and then planning sessions for, nakedness together, or dancing naked together, or something like that. But start small and build up slowly. And also in between those times that you spend together, kind of talk about how it was for each partner. What did you enjoy? What did you not enjoy? It's a really important thing, is to start small and also put boundaries around what's going to happen. Because sometimes in relationship, our fear is if we start kissing, that's going to lead to sex, and we're afraid of having sex. So if you put a boundary around, okay, we're going to have 25 minutes of kissing and we're not going to go any further than that, it creates safety for the partners, or one of the partners, because safety is a big part that we need to nurture when we are embarking on a journey of rekindling sexual intimacy in a relationship. Safety is paramount. I've got a whole episode about safety and creating safety, if that's something you're interested in, because it is absolutely vital in terms of creating that in your relationship for intimacy, sexual intimacy to thrive. When we don't feel safe, we feel stressed, and when we're stressed, we don't get turned on. As a rule of thumb, that's kind of how it works. So creating that safety is really, really important. So this was a really quick guide, right? Some tips, as you can get a good plan out of this. This is the sort of thing I've been working with men on doing, and obviously there's nuances to some of these things depending on your situation and depending on your relationship, and depending on if there's any sexual trauma that's occurred in the relationship or outside. If there's any physical trauma that can come from birth, for instance, there's some navigating there, which I can't go into all the nuances here. But if you're listening to this and this is something you want help with, please reach out to me. This is something that I can help you with. I've done some work, quite a lot of work with men over the last 6 months or so, helping them in their relationship. And if you're looking for something in terms of being helped as a couple, then me and also have got that the relationship school program, but we also work with couples, coaching them together. So that's something as an option. So please feel free to get in contact about either of those things. But I will leave you there, and yeah, have a wonderful day. Ciao, ciao.